Okay, this one is chipboard and this one is grungeboard. Okay, this is the grungeboard and this is the chipboard. And I'm just going to be glimmer misting these. This is in the red velvet. I'm just going to glimmer mist the bejesus out of these. And we're going to see how it takes the color either differently, the same, how it's going to do. Now right off the bat, what I'm noticing, I don't know if you can tell, but the grungeboard is sort of pooling. Alright, do you see that? How it's just sort of running the ink around it. Okay. Whereas the chipboard has just soaked it in and almost has a speckly effect, if you can see. So basically, hit these with the heat gun. And we're going to see what happens when you hit it with the heat gun. Chipboard is starting to bend a little bit. Let's see the grungeboard. I should pop this a little. Okay, now as I'm heating the chipboard, I don't know if you can tell, it's curling, alright? It's definitely curling. Okay. And then the grungeboard is still perfectly flat as I'm heating it. It's not curling at all. Okay, so now here they are. Now, like I said, this is the little bent, the chipboard, and when I go to straighten it, I don't know if you can tell, you probably can't tell on camera, but it sort of gets these little wrinkles, right? And that kind of bugs me, because you can see where it's creased, right there, where I'm trying to bend it back. Do you see? It's kind of right there, you can kind of tell. So that kind of bugs me. And the glimmer on the chipboard kind of pools in a way that I'm not super happy with. Alright, now this is the grungeboard piece. It is perfectly flat, and even if it wasn't, we can bend it without getting those crease lines either way. Okay, so that is how they differ and are similar for when you add glimmer mist to them. Okay, so you can glimmer mist grungeboard. It takes it really, really well. Okay, now let's do inking. Okay, so here I have 3 different pieces of chipboard, are the triangles, and 3 different pieces of grungeboard, which are the, and grunge paper is going to react the same way as grungeboard. It's just a little thinner, but it does the exact same thing. All right, so I'm going to try it with different colors. I'm going to use the Color Box chalk ink in Olive Pastel as my first. I'm going to do direct to paper with this one. I mean direct to the chipboard. And this is a very, very wet pad. So just seeing how it differs and how it's the same. Okay, so that was the olive, and we'll let those set that aside to dry for a moment. A baby wipe to clean off my mat. Okay. All right, so the next one we're going to do also direct to paper. With both, direct to paper, direct to the ink pad. I'm just going to take it and press it in. This is the chipboard. So the chipboard are triangles and the Grungeboard is squares or rectangles. Okay, this is the pine needles. I'm hoping that it will show up well. Okay, so that's direct to the pad. It does take a little bit longer for the Grungeboard to suck up the ink. I can tell you that much. But it's still definitely sucking it up and it's doing a good job. So that is the direct. And then I also have my ink blending tool that I'm going to use on both items to add the ink. Just come out a bit lighter when you do it that way. Okay. And now we're going to do it to the Grungeboard. Now I'll show you in a second. Okay. All right. So there we have it. And let's zoom in and show the differences. Okay. Now here is the chipboard direct to paper with the chalk ink. Direct to chipboard. And then this one is the direct to grunge. They both look very similar and very nice. Okay. Now for this one, this was the direct. The chipboard is completely dry, whereas this one is taking another second or two to dry, and you can just heat it with a heat gun. So here is, now you will be able to tell that the chipboard seems a lot smoother, and it is. It's smoother. Grungeboard does have a little texture on it, almost like a very light velvet, it does have a texture to it, which is I personally like it. But there's a difference with the direct to. Okay, and then similarly, the inked piece versus the inked piece. You can see that the Grungeboard does have a sort of grain, not really a grain, it does have a front and a back, and I am using the front, but it does sort of have grooves and pits. Not really pits, but it's a little less smooth naturally than the chipboard. So that is one thing that you may like, you may not like, I'm not sure. But so that is inking.